going to get started. I see we've got 36 participants and people trickling in as I speak. So,
good morning, everybody.
Good morning. I'm gonna mute everyone. Don't take offense. Just so with 30, I'm sure we'll get up to around 40 or 50 people, just to make it easy to communicate. You'll be able to unmute yourself, but for now I'm going to mute everyone. All right, hopefully you can still hear me. So we're going to get started. Just quickly, an introduction. My name is Bob Story. For those who don't know me, I'm the General Manager of Sto Canada. And doing most of the talking today will be Johan Szynkowski. Most of you who know him. Names, Yogi or Johan, there he is. And Yogi's going to be walking us through the application of one of our newest, I consider most innovative products that we've come out with lately. And that's saying a lot given the commitment to innovation and investments in innovation that Sto's made over the last several years. So just quickly, I'll take you through, if I share my screen here, I'll take you through the product brochure, which as of this morning is now available on our website. The product is called Sto Veneer Wood. Hopefully you can see my screen. If you want to turn off your video, if you have a slow internet connection, by all means, feel free to do so. That's at your discretion. If you find that the video or the audio is intermittent, that might help. But I'll just quickly go through the brochure to give you an idea of the product you'll be seeing today. And just quickly, the background on this is, for those of you who've been keeping track of Sto in Canada for the last few years, we've been making a concerted effort to bring to the market some of the more interesting products that we've developed throughout our network of 46 countries where Sto operates, including the home country, the original office and the origins of Sto, which is in the Black Forest of Germany. A lot of the innovations you see from Sto in Canada originate there, although this product was developed originally in Austria, so just beside Germany. And the EcoShape product that you may be familiar with came out of the Netherlands. So it's not always coming out of Germany, but often it is. This product we are officially launching this year. So you're kind of getting a sneak peek. It's not, other than the brochure, it's not well represented on our website, but you will see that in the near future. We'll have it included as part of the specialty finish options. The product, like so many of our other finishes, I mentioned EcoShape as well, is not meant to be a singular product that we just put out there. It's part of a system. It's part of our cladding systems. So whether you're talking about a stucco system or an eave system, this is a tested and certified finish option for our cladding systems. Probably the most familiar is the StoTherm CI continuous insulation eave system. So we have tested this product, gone through all the Canadian code approvals, including for non-combustible construction. And that means in Ontario, having both the ULC S134 fire endurance test with this Sto Veneer Wood as the finish on that system, the full-scale fire endurance test, as well as in Ontario, the S101 for any non-combustible construction over 6 stories. So we've got all the documentation and certification to allow you to use this on any type of construction. It can be used, and you can see on the first page of the brochure, there's a little icon that indicates exterior, and below that, interior. So this product has low VOC emissions and can be used and is used for interior applications as well, where you want that wood grain look. So just quickly, there's some just general information about the product, how it's made, the different colors that are available in the standard, I'll call them wood stains, that top coat this product. I'll get into those in a little bit more detail in a second. And and then just an overview of how this complements STO's movement towards providing the widest range of aesthetic options for exterior cladding systems. So if I share another picture here, this will show you in better detail, hopefully you can see that, what all of the colors, stain colors are. And this doesn't mean you can't top coat this product with one of the other STO colors, coatings, or paints. You can, and it's been done. But as far as achieving a wood stain color for this product, these are the 14 wood stain colors that we have available. Okay, and just a matter of housekeeping, if there's any questions, we're going to try and hold those off to the end just because of the number of people, be manageable if we hold those off to the end. And you can enter those questions in the chat section of the Zoom meeting, which I'll be monitoring and keeping notes on. And or if you prefer, at the end when we open things up and unmute microphones, you can ask your question directly. And it'll probably be one for Yogi to answer, because since he'll be doing most of the talking and explaining how the product actually works. So without any further delays, I'm gonna, oh, and if there are any questions in French, and I apologize, this isn't being simulcast in French as well. We haven't gotten to that level of technology just yet, so we're still figuring out Zoom. But if there are any questions in French, we have Nick from Francil, our channel partner for Quebec, and we can translate any questions in French through Nick at the end. So by all means, we can ask the questions in either English or French. And we can even look, we are recording this, so everyone knows it's being recorded. The reason for that is we may decide that we have this overdubbed and translated for French customers. And we may also use snippets of this and excerpts for things like social media posts and YouTube training videos. So we're recording. So I'm going to unmute Yogi and mute myself, and then make him the main screen here. So let me do that, and then I'll let him take it from there. How do I unmute you, Yogi?
Can you hear me now? Yeah? Okay. All right, first off, I'm just going to show you guys what the actual product is. This is the wood veneer product. I'm not sure, you can see the wood grains in there. I'm sure everybody can. I believe there's 29 different variations of this grain, so you're not going to have repetitive pattern. So it's going to be not this grain, there's going to be many different grains. So as you go along the wall, it's not going to look identical to the piece above, below, around the corner, from box to box. There's not the same piece in each individual box. Now you can see this product, I held it up like that, but this product is very pliable. You can curve it, wrap it. It's pretty easy to handle. This is a piece that comes right out of the box, roughly a little over 6 inches tall and a little over 6 feet long. They're pretty easy to use and install. We've been playing with this product for about a year. Excuse me, I'm trying to get rid of this piece. Now, before any install is done with that, what I recommend is on your corner, which is right here. We've already base coated, meshed, and put our Sto corner bead in there. This is just going to give it strength to when we have to go back and cut off the proud edge to get a nice true corner. This will just act as a guide, so when you do choose to use an X-Acto knife or a small router, this will guide you with more strength than the EPS and mesh and base coat, and also for bumping in incidental contact. So to get started, we have this product here called Sto RFP. It's probably backwards. That product there is this. It's the same material. The adhesive is the same as the product that's manufactured. This product does have a mesh in it, so it's not just RFP, so there is some strength to it. Now what we're going to do before we even start and go to the wall, we usually start at the top of the wall just to keep the lower part of your wall cleaner as you're going. So I'm going to bring a level line up and start where I'm at. Generally, you're going to do this above where your soffit connection is, or above where your parapet cap is going to go, just so this part will be hidden. And generally this is pre-back wrapped anyway, so it'll be cleaner. So that's my guide to start. And this product, that RFP I was just showing you, is installed with a 1/4 by 1/4 notch trowel. And I'm just going to use a bucket scoop to take it out of that bucket. So what I do first is I put it on with the flat edge of the notch trowel. And you could put it on some of you guys would like to use a hawk. In the situation I'm in right now, I'm not going to use that. And you're going to notice the material is pretty slippery on the trowels and on the tools. And I wouldn't worry about putting it on too thick, because once you get the notch trowel in there, it will be removing a lot of the material that's on there. As you can see, as I'm putting this stuff on, if you did have some wood veneers below this, some of this material could come in contact with it. And which is why we start at the top. Now, if you go into the corners, you just want to go load the corners a little bit more. Because when we install this, we're going to want the adhesive, the RFP, to ooze out of there. Now I like to bring it tight to the wall, because then there's less adhesive that you'll see later that we have to push out and roll out. So if you do see a little of the base coat coming through on the deep side of the notch, that's good. Now I'm going to take the first piece that I pre-cut up here. This wall is roughly 50 inches long, and what I used to pre-cut them, and I'm gonna pick up this. We've all seen it in our younger days. Does everybody remember these? A paper cutter from kindergarten, grade 1, whatever. We found a couple on a website. They are readily available, some smaller ones, bigger ones that size, and any of like office supply place that you can get. So I'm just going to take this piece. Now your first piece is going to follow that level line. I can still see it. I'm not sure if you guys can. So I'm going to take this piece, keep it away from the edge, put it on my level line. Now I'm going to take this and slide it over into the corner that I already installed earlier this morning. And it is about a 1/2 inch proud. You can see some of the material coming out. So I'm going to put some pressure on that. And we'll come back a little later to do a second step for that pressure. Then I'm going to take an offcut of whatever I used before, because you really shouldn't throw them away. Unless you do want a pattern on your wall, that's when you're going to start wasting material. I don't think that way, so I don't like to waste material, money. You take your second piece, and you put a 1/4 inch or less, whatever you're going to be comfortable with when you do use this, and you're going to push it up and over. So you're pushing it into that joint on this piece above it, and you're going to see the material start oozing out of it. And there'll be more coming out of it later, and I'll push that right up to it as well. For our next piece, just measure it out. 36.5 inches.
While Yogi's cutting that piece, I'll answer one of the early questions about whether or not you have to start from the top. The answer is no, you don't have to, but as Yogi was mentioning earlier, you just have to be careful. If you are starting from the bottom, material when you're applying the adhesive could drip down. You want to minimize that adhesive getting on pieces you've already installed. If that does happen, and you'll see it in a minute, because it is the same material, the adhesive and the actual product, it can be cleaned with a wet rag. It's simple to clean, but that just takes an extra step. So you don't have to start from the top if there's some reason you don't want to.
I'm pushing it over again and letting that ooze come out. Once this is in place, it can be moved. It will set up over time, but it's not going to set up right away. This is one of the more of our forgiving adhesives. Just push it nice and tight. And then I just keep on going because I do have these pieces pre-cut. So when that's done, I will take a plastic putty knife, Bondo knife. I wouldn't use metal. And I will push this in. And then I'll clean off these. But the reason why I use a plastic one is if you use metal and you're going along these edges and it does catch one of these knots, which does, this is how real the wood actually is. The knots are in there. So if you catch it with a steel edge, there's a chance you can cut it or mar it, and you don't want to do that. That's why we use plastic. So I just go over that a little bit. Get some more material in there into the joints. Then I'm going to take that same knife and just clean out the joints. This is roughly a 2-step process. Now, you guys probably can't see it from here, but there is some material on there. If I get it in the wood grain, don't worry about it. It's fine still, because there is another step to clean that part off. So now, if you want, you can avoid that step, which I just did. I'm a little bit OCD with trying to get everything flat. Here's another product that we've sourced from another supplier. It's a Home Depot VCT floor tile. We are trying to source one with a solid roll so we don't have all these different gaps in between, but it's proving difficult to find. If anybody wants to be a manufacturer, they can make them. I just take this roller and roll it out. Now you're going to see some more product come out of the joint, which is fine. This product was borrowed and it wasn't cleaned, so I do recommend cleaning it because it will make ease of use for you when the next time you have to go install it. That's pretty simple for that step. If you do have any large parts of adhesive coming through the joints, you go back to get your plastic knife that I lost. I have another one. You can go through and take that off. It's just going to make the cleaning a little bit easier. And the last step for application of the wood veneer is you just wipe it down. And any of that stuff any of the adhesive that would have gone on, the face of this will come off with a damp sponge. It shouldn't be a soaking wet sponge, just damp. Any questions so far coming through, Bob?
Just the one I mentioned earlier, and then we've had a few recommendations for rollers, sourcing rollers that have a full solid silicone. So we appreciate that input.
What was the one earlier? I missed it, sorry.
Oh, whether or not you have to start from the top.
Okay, yeah, just for cleanliness and then working your way down. I would recommend it. You don't have to, but if you do, if you start at one day at the bottom and you come back the next day, I do recommend tarping it off, because for this it wouldn't be as bad for putting the adhesive on, but when you do get to the stain, that's where you have to be a little bit more cautious and pick and choose where you're going to start and stop. And if you are staining, I would suggest starting at the top again, just because as it drips down, you can catch it as you go up on your finished stain already. It could mar what is already done. So top to bottom would be, how much time does the material take to, was that form?
To take the final form, yeah.
Oh, for it to set up.
Yeah, getting dry, yeah.
Curing time? The curing time is a day. For it to set up and not to move, I would say it would be a couple hours, but it depends on your temperature, your humidity. For people out in BC, it'll take longer. For people in the prairies, in the spring it's drier, but we always get humidity everywhere. We are in Canada. So you really have to pay attention to the climate that you're working in. If it's a windy day, it's gonna set up longer. I wouldn't push the 24-hour cure time that it does take for this stuff to set up and not move when you're ready to go. The corner here, I would not cut it. I did leave it a little bit, about 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch grout. I should have left it a little bit longer, just so I have some material to cut off. But I like to use the router because it gives you a really true clean corner. And there's just a cheap carbide bit on here, which they do burn out. It's just carbide, and there is a little bit of aggregate in here in the fiberglass mesh. They're expensive, but if you can find a diamond one, yeah, Columbia Taping Tools does make a solid roller. I haven't seen one. I've seen one for the corners, but I haven't seen a flat one. But this is a lifesaver to me because it gives you a really true, nice, clean corner, which is why you load that corner with extra RFP Don't leave it bare. And this will go into the RFP, and that has aggregate in it too, which is why a carbide bit doesn't work as good as a diamond would. No questions so far, because we're going to move to staining on this side, which I installed earlier this morning. And I don't recommend staining the same day. Let it set up, because now you have drying from both sides. And when you do stain it, it's going to have a hard time for that moisture in the adhesive to dry up to the face. So the more layers you put on this material right away, the longer it's going to take to cure. And if someone does walk by and bump it, and it is stained too early, it's just going to be a mess, potential mess. Okay, I'm just going to move this. Sorry if I make anybody dizzy.
Well, while Yogi's getting set up for the staining step, I'll mention I was corrected that we have actually now 15 stains, wood stain colors. There is a charred stain color that's been added to the 14 that I showed you earlier. Our product manager, Corinne Gala, corrected me. So we actually have 15 stains now that you can top coat this with. And I'll mention, Yogi may be planning on mentioning it anyway, but the stain includes a sealer. So when you're applying this stain, you're actually applying at the same time the sealer that provides the UV protection and the weather protection for the product. So there's no additional step to add a sealer to this. It's in the stain itself.
So, because the question is going to come up, how many square feet can you get? So how long have we been on the call? 5-10 minutes? Even if it's 10 minutes, I'm explaining a lot. On the side we just did was roughly 8 square feet, and I cut pieces. So you can get 8 square feet done in 5 to 10 minutes. As long as you're set up, you have the right tools to do it. These are the tools that we found out that work the best so far. You guys might find something else that works the best for you. And if you do, please share, because we'd like to improve everything that we can. We don't have all the answers. We just like to think we have the right ones at the beginning. It's constantly revolving. It's construction. You know, we can take criticism. I can most of the time. But most of the time I'm right anyway. Right, guys? So what I'm going to apply here is our Sto Aqua Top Stain, which is the one that's available now, but we have our own coming out. I think it's readily available soon. Bob?
Yes.
So this color I have here is Grau. It obviously is from Germany. It's gray. I'm not going to use this one because it's a new can. I have an existing can that I'll show you guys right now that I've already stirred up and got ready to go. So every time you get a can, yes, you do have to stir it. This one's been used already. You will see it go on the wall. This is what I have readily available to me. I do recommend a stain brush, as they use for staining decks and fences and any other type of wood. And you mix it up with a mixing stick, or do the investment for $10 and you get your own little mini mixing paddle for your pails and just attach to a drill. Low speed, you do high speed, it's going to go everywhere. So this product is a stain, and this one is called water. So you guys, can you see the wood grain coming out yet? If not, I'll bring the camera closer.
Yeah, you might have to bring it a slight bit closer. It's just a little blurry.
Okay. Give me 1 second here so I don't drop this pail. Everybody see that better now? Thumbs up. Can you apply stain with a rag? I've never done it. I wouldn't apply stain with a rag for your first coat because you're going to want it to sit in there. This needs 2 coats minimum.
So as Yogi's doing that, I'll just give you an update on as we introduced this product in Canada, we started with field trials and we were using the German stain and the German adhesive. That's the RFP Yogi was showing you. We've already migrated to a North American stain. So that's available now, those 15 colors I was mentioning earlier. They come out of our plants here in North America. Not the can that Yogi was showing you, that's still the old German version. The adhesive, the RFP, is not, for some of you that are familiar with the Sto RFP in North America, that's a different product. So don't get confused with that. The adhesive, when it's converted to the North American product, will come out under a different name, probably Sto Veneer Wood Adhesive or something like that. And that will be probably mid-year, we'll be getting that converted over. In the meantime, we will have inventory of the German adhesive, the RFP, but the stain, as I mentioned, is available now, and we do have inventory of the North American produced version.
So the one thing I will like to add to this is when you are applying this stain, I do recommend putting on thin, just like any stain. This is vertical. If you put it on too much on the brush or too heavy, it will run down the wall. If you put it on nice and thin and keep on brushing it out, keeping a wet brush, but go down here when you run out and run across the top bands, just to make sure that it is dry out and you will not have any runs down your wall. And then you can go back and do your second coat. If you want it darker, you can go to third coat, or pick another color.
Yogi, did you mention how long between stain coats?
No, because that's going to also be affected by the wind. Like this stuff is already tacking up already because it is warm in here. There's not much coming off. There's a little bit of color coming off, but you can't see my fingerprints in there. I just put that on. The warmer it is, the faster it's going to set up. I would still wait a couple hours for it to set up. But as you can see right there, it looks from the different tones that you can see here. This is the wood grain being thicker, lower, higher indentations. Proudness of the actual wood grain from the real wood molds that are made from real pieces of wood from the Black Forest. That, Bob, did you mention that part? You're on mute, Bob. Bob, you're on mute.
Sorry, it's still early here in Alberta. I need my third cup of coffee. Yeah, I overlooked that, Yogi. Thanks for reminding me. Yogi mentioned that there are unique grain patterns in each of these planks that you're seeing. That's because there's actually over 50 molds that are made from actual pieces of black spruce. So you're not going to get any repeating grain patterns in a box of 25 planks. And there is a very distinct, I'm not sure if you can see it well in the video, but there is a very distinct and unique grain pattern, and it's picking up the stain as the stain gets applied differently. That's why you're seeing the different shades there. So it really provides that authentic, that's a good look. It provides an authentic wood look as you apply that stain.
The other thing I will add is that you'd use real wood, and it's adverse to, well, not adverse, it's susceptible to rot, mold, mildew, you name it. This product isn't. You're not going to have a rotting, a molding issue. They did do one house in Germany where they did a side-by-side. They used wood veneer and then they used real wood. The wood one looks like wood. I'm not going to say garbage because it's real wood, but this still looks like the day it was done. So it does stand test of time. There was studies done on it before we brought it to the market. And I think the house was a couple years old. I'm not going to say it was 10. I'm going to say it was within 5 years.
Yeah, it was 5, Yogi.
5 years?
Yeah.
So within 5 years, the wood needed to be sanded again and washed and cleaned and restained again. Whereas this still looked fairly well. What I'm going to attempt is, because it is warm in here, just get this a little bit darker.
So there's a question that's come through on the chat if there's drainage needed behind the wood veneer. And the answer is the veneer is just our finish, one of the finish options that we've now added to our repertoire of how you finish the cladding system. So the drainage performance or the drainage element of the cladding design isn't affected by what finish you're putting over it. So in a traditional StoTherm CI system, you're going to have that drainage behind the insulation, both from the vertical ribbons of adhesive and from the Pro D grooves in the actual EPS board. So there is drainage, but the drainage is part of the cladding system. This is just a finish option that goes on that system.
Or existing systems. If you have existing system on someone's house, they want to change the look of their house, they don't have to use a bucket anymore. They could use veneers. They could use, wood veneer. They can use eco shapes. They can change it. You do have to skim it out and put another layer of mesh and base coat in there. That's just unavoidable. So you get that aggregate out of there on a, is this considered combustible cladding? No. This is considered, what's the term? It's like a coat of paint. It's such a minimal component, right? Minor component.
Yeah, so just on that topic of combustible cladding, this product, the veneer wood, just like eco shapes, we have included this now in our ULC S134 listing, and just recently added it to the, got the testing and documentation to add it to the ULC S101 listing. And what those two listings are, you only need the ULC S134 for all of Canada except for Ontario, but in Ontario you also need the 101 to allow these products to be used in non-combustible construction. So this can be used in a non-combustible construction design, and above 6 stories in Ontario, you don't have to worry outside of Ontario, but you need the 101 when you go above 6 stories. When you get into a lot line restriction, for example, where all the components in the exterior cladding out from the sheathing out have to individually be classified as non-combustible on their own merits. This is, as Yogi mentioned, considered a minor component, like paint would be. So your insulation in those systems would have to be a mineral wool, for example, and you'd go to our StoTherm CI mineral system. And then as a finish for that system, you can use this StoVeneer wood or eco shapes. Those are both acceptable in those lot line restrictions for all the components, because this is considered a minor component.
Yeah, so if you're in a restoration type of building project, this can be that new cladding on their restoration job if they're not doing a total reclad or a brand new construction. And the other thing is you don't just have to use the stain on here. This can be done with any type of coatings, with Dryonic, with Lotuson, with Acryl or Acryl Plus. If you want a rich, vibrant color, use our Acryl Plus. If you want to keep clean, for lighter colors, you use Lotuson. If you want for a darker color, you got to use our Dryonic, and it has that water repelling, self-cleaning properties on there to keep this wall looking better for longer. So there is options there. You don't just have to go with a stain. Any other questions?
I'm just looking through the chat here. There was a question from earlier. Are there any issues with the strips slipping when you're rolling them? And how much tolerance do you have once they're applied?
When you're installing them, as you're rolling them, you don't see the pieces move. When you are doing it with that flat blade that I was showing you earlier, that plastic flat trowel, they do move a little bit, but you can move them right back. When you're rolling it, I really don't see much. Miniature temperature is going to be +4. I just saw that question come up, and it cannot be done in the winter. Like most of our products, most of it's +4 and rising. There was another question previous to that about any jobs in the prairies, I believe it was. I think it was 2 or 3 questions back. Let me see if I can find that question. Are there any exterior installations in the prairies currently that we can look at? There is none on the exterior yet. There is one on the interior of one of our contractors, and I believe one other spot. I'm not too sure where it is. He does have we're sending samples out right now for another project. I don't know the name of the project yet. The samples were just ordered yesterday, so they will be going up. Like Bob was saying earlier, this is a new product for Canada, North America, or the Americas alone. That's just getting launched over here today through you guys, through this. So no, there is not a product. There is some in Ontario market. That I think they might be up now.
Yeah, I'm going to share a couple pictures. These jobs are in Ontario. One is just a trim around a commercial building. Hopefully everyone can see that. So there's creative granite there on that molding, the vertical molding, and then the horizontal molding above the opening is the veneer wood, as you can see, the grain. And I'm gonna share another. This is on a prefabricated panel that's utilizing both the veneer wood and our EcoShape products. So that brown gray brick you see below the wood is EcoShape, and then of course the wood is our StoVeneer wood, and that's a project in Mississauga. That building has just been finished, or at least all the panels have just been finished.
So if you guys notice that technique there on this photo that Bob's showing, see how the knots are more pronounced? What they did there is they went ahead and touched up the knots in the wood veneer before applying their 2 coats of stain to make that be more pronounced. And that's 2 different colors on there, eh, Bob?
Yeah, that's right. They used the gray and the walnut. They combine the stain colors, which you can do. You have to put on 2 coats. It doesn't have to be the same color in both coats. And you can see the effect here when you combine 2 colors. It gave it a bit, the gray gave it a bit of a weathered look.
Yes. Can this system be panelized? Yes, it can. It'd probably be easier to install on a panel because it'd be horizontal. Can you install? Yes, that was an awesome question. Any direction, horizontal, vertical, diagonal. That was the question. Can you install it on any direction? Yes, you can. You can do a herringbone if you really want to get, I'm going to say difficult because herringbone is hard to do. If you ever done a tile floor, it's fun. Not really. But any issues with the edges peeling or warping, expansion, contraction? Not that we have seen, and it's not going to happen because the product is the adhesive. It's not going to shrink. It's not going to expand. It's not going to contract. It's shrinking and all that stuff is done. This is dried, pre-dried. The adhesive will dry out. It's not going to shrink and it's not going to crack and it's not going to peel. If you want to sit there with a chisel and a hammer, anything will peel. But this, what Bob's showing right here, is an example of a hotel company that's running trials using this instead of going for real wood. And this is in Niagara, I believe. That's the one of the test sites. Matt, are you on mute still?
Yeah, that's right. It's potential for Niagara. Yeah.
I don't want to mention who it is for you because we don't know and I don't want to jinx it. But that's one of the possibilities you can do is create an actual wood beam look. And the reason they're going to this is because their actual real wood beams have rotted and they want something more sustainable. So essentially, Sto's created this product. Is there a special technique for finish of the corners? The technique for the corners is that, I can go back to my conversation after. The technique for the corners is what I was showing earlier, is you take the X-Acto knife and you run it down. Because I installed this morning, and I apologize, I'm not staying in hotels right now. I was going to come up last night, but we had a winter storm weather warning, so I was not allowed to go on the highway because my 2 little kids told me not to. Too dangerous. So I woke up early and came up this morning and installed this so we can install a stain, but it still isn't solidly attached to the walls. Well, you run your knife down the back side of this wood veneer, and that will clean up the corners. Or, like I said earlier, if you let it dry, well, you have to let it dry, not if. You grab the router, and the router will clean that up perfectly, a perfect 90-degree corner. The knife has a little bit, unless you have a really strong forearm, steady hand, the knife can dance on you. I'm sure everybody's has cut themselves in the kitchen, or on a job site using an X-Acto knife. You do it once, you're not going to do it again. But using that router takes that room for error out of it, and it is really clean. I thought, you know what? I thought I had a sample where I did do one, but I'm not sure where it is. I can find it later.
So Yogi, there's a couple other questions we should address here. One is any issues with the edges peeling or warping with expansion or contraction? Because there's a concern that the product doesn't have a lot of track record. I just want to mention that at the beginning I said this product was developed in Austria. It's now been used for well over 5, I think we're going on 6-7 years in Europe, in climates like northern Germany, very similar to many of the Canadian climate regions. And as Yogi mentioned, they did a side-by-side even in one of those locations with a real wood application and stain. And this, from a UV endurance standpoint, far exceeded the endurance of the real wood and stain in terms of color fading, the lack of color fading. So like any paint or any color or any stain, the more vibrant or the darker it is, the more noticeable the fading that eventually will happen over time will be. But as long as since it does fade uniformly, whether or not you notice it depends on the contrast to the surrounding area, but we know that it's got good UV stability, at least in that 5-6 year range. As far as expansion and contraction, the product is made, that RFP product that Yogi was mentioning, both the adhesive and the actual raw material for the product, is an organic product. It's not a cementitious base coat product. It's more of an organic base coat type product, and it has good flexibility, so it will stand up to some expansion and contraction. It won't crack. You saw Yogi pick up the plank, and it's very pliable. That's a product that's been sitting in a box for a couple of months, so it's fully dried and cured, and it still has that flexibility. So that should give you some indication that once it's on the wall, it still retains a lot of flexibility, so it can withstand some movement. Now, at some point, there's going to be enough movement. If there's enough movement, it will split and crack just like anything would, but it's not a brittle product. That's the other thing, that picture of the post, it can go around, whether it's vertical or horizontal oriented, it can go around curved surfaces and posts. So you can see there, it does have that good flexibility.
The one thing, like any product, any adhesive, if you do leave it on the wall too long, it will. Oh, I'm in a conference place. Krispy Kreme. You're in a conference. Krispy Kreme. Get out of here. Oh. So you won't. Sorry about that. Comedians.
Where's our lunch?
So it already started to skin over. This has been 20 minutes. But start to skin over, it's not going to be adhesive anymore. If you do get too far ahead of yourself, it does skin over. You're gonna have to scrape it off and waste some adhesive. So only work up to what you feel comfortable with getting pieces on that are staggered. As you get to a corner, yeah, you're gonna slow down and probably not put as much adhesive on because you got to go back to your cutting board. I don't even know what that thing's called. What's it called, a cutting board? You go back to that and you cut your pieces, and then you're gonna bring it back to the wall because you're gonna have less time to work there. You can also use a speed square and a knife to cut this. I just think this way is just simpler. And if you do find one, I think the one I have at home, I bought one for other videos and playing with this material, is only 18 by 18 inches. So, and it's plastic, so it's pretty easy to handle, to bring up on a lift or a scaffold or leave it on a job site or whatever you need to do. But the other reason for this is that us being an East manufacturer, supplier, traditionally, you guys have only been on the wall with trowels and floats and doing floated finishes and everything. This lets you stay on the wall. If you see in your bidding process and your request for quotes to do your EIFS or / stucco, you see some wood veneer on there or some wood look or some vinyl siding that they want for wood or any type of wood look that they want. You guys can go after this, give them a full wall. We can go back, we'll probably do another one with eco shapes, but this is one of the reasons why I don't know if you can see that. See it? On the wall. I'll show you how big I am now. That's it.
There you go.
There we
Now
go.
we see it.
Oh. If you don't have a shirt, we'll get you a shirt. But for you guys to get on the wall and stay on the wall longer and do more, you're not setting up and disassembling. You have more work on the building to do, which is going to create more profit dollars for you guys and more sales for us.
Yogi, there's a question here. When you do your underlap, how far do you tuck it in? I think they mean at the top where you've got the soffit or the parapet.
At the top of the parapet, where's this? When you underlap at the top, how far do you tuck it in? Well, there's no, or unless you're talking about me pushing it up here, there is no underlap. It butts up to each other because that's why the material oozes out. But if you're tucking it underneath the soffit or like a soffit that'll come out on a house or a parapet cap, I would suggest leaving it 2.5 inches. That's just a safety factor. Where if you do have your parapet going along, and they're never level. They don't want to be level. I don't believe they should be level, because you're going to want the water to run off or tilt it. So I would recommend 2 inches. You know, if you want to do a pre-cut of a 3-inch piece up top, just to hide that, so you have a full piece at the bottom. It depends on your layout and the look you're going for. Is there a recommended stagger? I'm gonna recommend 18 inches just for the look alone. Like this one is probably pushing it on a corner. All right, that one's 12. I would recommend 18. I don't like to use waste. I don't like to throw away waste. I like to use it. There's always going to be a spot for it. If you start with 18 inches down here and you go to the end of the wall, the one thing you don't want to do is end up with a sliver. You do have some math to do over the length of the wall, but you can cut a piece in. The infill piece doesn't have to be on the corner. It could be in the middle to add aesthetics. And then you can have your cutoff at the end or at the beginning.
Okay, there's a question about turning the corner with the same piece, and the answer is on a right angle corner like that, the material will split if you try and turn a corner that sharp.
It'll curve, right? It'll curve pretty good. But I'll just show you here, like the limit. If I just keep on pushing in, it's still flexible. Again, it's warm in here. But when you go that, and I want a 90, it's going to split. It will crack. It won't go apart because of fiberglass mesh in there, so it is strong, right? But it will show that crack on the corner.
Yeah. So we don't recommend turning the corner with the same piece. You can cut the corner on the knife with a knife, or as Yogi showed, the router, and then you can sand it. And then when you stain it, it does provide a very nice clean corner. I'm going to share a picture that was just uploaded by, I think it was Ziggy Photos. And this is an example of an interior application with no stain at all. Now you can do this because in an interior application, you're not worried about UV resistance and weather resistance. So there's no stain, which means there's no sealer on this interior example. If you went outside with this, you'd want to, and you wanted that natural look, you'd want to put a clear coat sealer on there, 2 coats. So you had at least that UV protection and weather protection on an exterior application where you wanted to keep that natural look or that white, off-white look. The other thing to notice here is you see there's a gap in the in between the planks, a horizontal grout line almost, mortar joint line. And that can be done. And because on even on an exterior application, when you apply the stain, the 2 coats of the stain, which has, as I mentioned, the sealer in it, you will also be sealing that joint, the RFP adhesive in that joint. So that provides an interesting aesthetic as well, having that horizontal joint, which you can do as long as you're applying those 2 coats of the stain on top of that.
There was another question. Good picture, Ziggy. There was another question that came up. Is there any chance of it going on a plumb? Yeah, there is, but there's every couple pieces that you're going to do as you're coming down the wall, you just bring your level up here. Like plumb essentially will be the corner. But once you get your corner routed out with the router or the knife, whatever method you choose, plumb will always stay clean on the corner. But to keep them level, 3-4 pieces, check it out. It'll still be movable every 3 or 4 pieces. So you can just slide it up and push it up. It's not going to really be like a piece of tile where it's hard once you get it in there. As long as you back butter it properly and you got everything notched down on the floor, it's hell to get that tile up. Speaking of that, I'm just going to take 1 piece off here just to show you guys the bond that's on here. So the way it looks like. That's what the roller's for. You see I didn't roll that good near the end, but over here, it's all flat and dispersed on the back.
The question came up in an earlier conversation about availability. This product we have stock in our Toronto and Niagara sales centers. Our distributor in Western Canada, Kenrock, has some inventory in Western Canada. So we also have a number of containers that are en route right now, so that we'll be prepared for the beginning of the season. So inventory-wise, we're in good shape to supply. It's just where you normally, depending on where you are, source your Sto products. I would reach out to whoever that is and just make sure that if you are planning on using this on a project, that they have some inventory. The nice thing about this product is the actual Sto veneer wood, there's 1 stock keeping unit. There's 1 SKU. Of course, there's 15 now stain colors, standard stain colors. But as far as the product's concerned, there's 1 SKU for the product. There's 1 SKU for the adhesive. Unlike EcoShapes, which we have literally hundreds, probably thousands of different texture and color combinations to achieve all those different looks of brick. This is a very simple product from a logistics standpoint for our channel partners to carry. All right, so we just are coming up on the 1 hour mark. If there's any other questions, please feel free to type them in or unmute yourself and ask it. I do want to say we've got up to 63 participants on this call, which was fantastic. How many square feet per box? It's metric. I apologize. It will be for probably another year. So it's got 8 square meters. That works out to about 86 square feet per box, 25 planks. It's a little over 6 feet, 2 meters, 60, what is that? 2 meters is 78 inches.
by 16 centimeters.
And 16 centimeters tall, so a little over 6 inches tall, a little over 6 feet long, and 25 of those planks in a box works out to about 86 square feet per box.
That being said, if there is a job coming up, the new size, Bob, will be 6 feet.
You mean the new size when we start making it in North America? That won't be until next year, and that'll be 6 feet, an actual 72-inch long plank by an actual 6 inches high. But that's about a year away.
So if you do have a job for next year, and it is possible, you know, there's a lot of jobs pushed off and delayed that does want this, let us know so we can bring it in from Europe so you don't have to mix and match pieces if you wanted to get started, because safety.
Sorry, you froze up on my screen, Yogi. I don't know if that was just me.
No, I was just saying,
It was just you, Bob. I got it. Yo, there's another question there is, how do you deal with scaffolding tie-in holes?
Good question, John. Way to throw the wrench in my presentation. That I've never thought of. You know what? If I was doing this on a wall and there was a tie-in hole there, I would leave a piece out. I wouldn't leave a hole. I would leave a predetermined size, whether it's 18 inches or 32 inches on that scaffolding for your tie-in, for your wall climber or whatever you have. Use a scissor lift. Thanks, Nick. I was a comedian. Just leave this piece out or leave this piece out. That'll take care of your tie-in. And it's okay to, like, you will have the raw BTS exposed, but it'll be minimal.
All right, any other questions? All right. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate everyone taking an hour out of your day to learn about this product. Feel free to reach out to any of your Sto representatives or distributor salespeople to ask any additional questions. Like I said, this product bulletin or product brochure will be on our website, or is on our website as of today, in the documentation center. And in the near future, it will be added to the specialty finish section with all the additional information that you can get on it. But feel free to reach out to any one of us if you want any additional information.
One thing I do want to say is that we will be doing more of these in the future. So just keep your eyes open and check your email for invitations to come in. We'll be doing a couple more with different products and systems.
Thanks, Yogi. Well done.
All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you.
Merci.
Hey, Bob.
Yes.
We'll be able to have the link from this presentation, right? Because I have a couple of entrepreneurs that wants to see it. So, like
Yes.
you said at the beginning.
Yes,
Yeah,
we will
correct.
make this available maybe on our YouTube channel, but we'll make the link available, the full video link available. Yes.
I want some royalties.
It's called a paycheck.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
No, there's someone asking about cost of material. So if you just contact your local distributor, they'll be able to give you the cost of the material for using it and installing it. There's so many people across Canada that we can't. There's different pricing from shipping and everything.
I can tell you from experience that up against longboard, we've had some experience. If you're familiar with that metal wood grain screen printed product, it's a metal product. It comes out of BC, and we've quoted as an alternative to that longboard this StoVeneer wood, and been significantly under that longboard price. So if you're up against that type of product, you should be in pretty good shape if you're submitting StoVeneer wood as an alternative. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your week, and stay tuned. Like Yogi said, we're going to be doing this now on a fairly regular basis. with products as we introduce them and roll them out. Take care.
See you later.
Hey, bye. See you guys.